This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of RLYG Gold, Mr. Todd Hilditch. Todd, how are you? Great to have you back on.
I'm great, thanks, Gerardo. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you for asking. It's been a busy couple of weeks for RLYG. It's been a busy year, frankly. You just increased your land position by 50% in Nevada, and you also defined some new high-priority drill targets as a result of the property-wide geophysical program, which I think is going to be an important tool for the company here moving forward. Can you walk me through the latest bit of news with RLYG?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And as we've spoken in the past, last summer, spring and summer, we ran a drill program. We were able to do rock sampling. We see high grade at surface on rock samples. We saw high grade gold, up to 19 gram per ton gold in our drilling. We hit gold in 10 of our 12 holes. And when we terminated that program, it wasn't for lack of getting results. It was, okay, we're drilling the same thing over and over. We see these veins at surface. So now let's try to take a step back and get a better understanding of a kind of the bigger picture. So fortunately, through the fall, we were able to do geophysics programs, so soil geochem, some additional rock geochem, and very importantly, the geophysics. And the geophysics, as well as mapping structures on surface, gave us sort of that 4 or 5 pieces of information that when you pull it all down into a map level integration, we started to see some really cool features. In fact, features that allowed us and drove us towards adding additional ground, as you mentioned. So yeah, we had a very busy fall. And now that we're getting all of this work interpreted, including ground magnetics and gravity surveys, we're coming up with some pretty cool new targets as well.
Let's talk about those new targets. You talk about the difference between the styles of mineralization that you're encountering. Can you speak to that a bit and how the geophysics have kind of helped refine the model?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's refining it and expanding it, which is really cool. So when we first came into this property and started our exploration work, it was based on some historic work that was done by a gentleman by the name of Dick Silito, as well as a junior that had hired him, as well as, in fact, a Cisco version 1.0. But it was an intrusive related, this sort of big Pluton balloon for those non-technical people that came up from 7 to 8 kilometers below the surface up, and when it cooled, these veins became apparent at surface. So this intrusive related system is very well known up in the Tintinic Belt in Alaska, Fort Knox, Dublin Gulch. So a system that's understood but still had to be expanded upon, drilled, and get maybe a bigger picture on just off of the main area. So for our March 23rd news release, for anybody that wanted to pull that up, you'd be able to see all of the heavy work around the main area. But what's become really intriguing is just because you have gold at surface in one spot doesn't mean that's the source, doesn't mean that there hasn't been some sort of geologic event that's disconnected the surface from where the real heat source is. And this is what's happened here, in particular at the cabin area, which is about 1 kilometer south of the main area. There is mapping of gold, rock samples and soils all the way through this area. But what we found at cabin, as an example, is there's a very strong geophysical feature that came out of our surveys that shows a break in the rock subsurface. So a break in the rock, along with structures that are mapped, along with old timer prospect pits that, the old timers were digging holes and going down ladders and stuff that you and I would be probably petrified of. But that's because they were chasing gold. Well, lo and behold, we have a confluence of about 4 separate sort of events and items here. All of the structures coincide at cabin. They come across each other, a northwest, a northeast, a north-south, high-grade samples, old historic work. And this area has never, ever been drilled before. And it's exactly where the geophysics shows there's a break in the rock. So if you were, somebody that was, trying to understand, well, why does gold even come to the surface? it has to find cracks, fissions, structures, some weakness to be able for the fluid to flow and then precipitate out gold. I think we found the area that is going to be really key to the Tokop area, the north part of Tokop.
What comes next, Todd?
So, interestingly enough, with the remaining geophysics survey that we completed, and in fact, we increased the land package on our south side, and we announced today by another 10 kilometers. We now have 30 square kilometers down in this area. Is the first sort of type, intrusive related, is exactly what we spoke about. But we're also seeing on our south part of our property, numerous kilometers away, is that secondary system that you alluded to. That's an epithermal type system. It's very similar to the work that's going on down at Beatty, which has some of the most major mining companies spending a lot of time down there, and like the Bullfrog mine that Barrick used to produce from. So same idea. We were able to look at the geophysics. We had to secure additional ground because of things that were popping out. The soil geochemistry is also lining up. The structures are lining up. So the same thing we're seeing up on the north side, Cabin and Main, is a matter of the northern part of the property. And then on the southern, we're seeing a little bit of a different feature. But we had to go get that ground, Gerardo. We really wanted to nail it down, and then we'll come to market with a little bit of additional geophysics targeting as well down there. So it just feels like all of the pieces of information that are falling through all of our work through the fall, I should say, are lining up with some pretty strong targets for us going forward.
I'm looking forward to having you back on. I'm looking forward to drilling. Anything else to add to that?
No, that's exactly what we're doing. All of this work and these iterations of different surveys and sampling and structural work, it really culminates to where do you want to drill? And we're trying to refine that as we speak. Hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll get to a point where, we know where we want to pinpoint. We do have some soil geochemistry work additional that we're going to complete in the next couple of months. So we're getting closer to identifying where we're drilling next.
Busy times. Looking forward to it. Thanks again for the time, Todd.
You bet. Thank you.